Hey, Twisted listeners, I'm Cindy,
And I'm Diva
and this is Twisted Listeners, a podcast about murder.
and Liz.
And this is part two of murderers who were released only to murder again.
Mm-hmm.
I re-listened to our first half, and it's going in my like top 10 favorite episodes that we've
Oh,
done.
good.
I really thought our stories were fucking good. And I think today is going to be equally horrifically good. Because they're
Yes.
terrible. They're fucking
Yeah.
terrible.
These are terrible cases. Yeah,
They're
mine is
terrible
horrible.
cases. Yeah. But these stories are really engaging and interesting. And even as somebody who fucking recorded them, I enjoyed listening. So hopefully y'all agree. Um, but yeah, I don't know anything to talk about.
No, I got a baby. I've had no caffeine today, so I'm very
Ooh,
I'm very tired.
why?
Um, I don't know. I just holding a baby 24/7. I couldn't even make myself a cup of tea.
Sometimes I get so tired I will like forget that I haven't had any.
Mm-hmm.
And then it'll be just
Yeah.
before like my cutoff where I can't drink anymore for the day. And I'm like, quick, and I like chug a cup.
I
But
mean, it doesn't even help. I'm so tired at this point that I do that thing where I drink a bunch of caffeine and it actually like I feel both tired and manic.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, I know.
it's
Sometimes if
it's
I
kind
drink too
of
much, I get there like pretty
my
easily.
tiredness is so strong that nothing can really counter it.
It's not taking the edge off anymore. Yeah.
No.
No, I feel you. I feel you. That sucks, but I get it. Well, I'm coaching a it's not little league, but I'm coaching like a kids baseball team. Assistant coaching. I was actually asked. I did not volunteer to do it, but I said yes, and I'm super proud that I was asked. I think it's really cool. I'm gonna be my kid's coach. He's been asking me to do it since he started playing, so pretty exciting. There's my news. All
That's very
American
good
mom right
news.
here. All American mom. I'm gonna make an apple pie after this. So
Hey, apple pie is delicious.
I don't like apple pie.
Really? But have you ever
No.
had a Dutch? Have you ever had a Dutch apple pie?
Yes, and
Dutch style?
it's far better, but
It's good.
my main issue is I don't like slimy cooked apples. They just don't taste good to me.
That's
Mhm.
fair.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, of all the fruit, I mean, I'm not a huge fruit pie person in general, but I prefer like, remember you were here one time, we got like a raspberry pie and that was
Mhm.
bomb.
Yep, I'm down for
Um,
that. I love a mixed berry. I
yeah,
just
berry, I think is a good genre for a
I
fruit pie.
the funny thing is like I like the goo in apple pies. I love the crust in apple pies.
Not the
I just
apples.
don't like the cooked apples. Yeah, I will
That's
literally
fair.
just eat everything but the apples. So,
Yeah, I think berry is where it's at for fruit pies. I
mhm.
think you want a berry
Yeah, agreed. Agreed.
of some kind.
I can get down with a meringue too, but that's a whole other
So
story.
I just want pie. I'm really passionate, as you know, about cream pie is my thing.
Yes, yeah.
That's
Yep.
the pinnacle.
I love a cream pie too. I made a homemade banana cream pie, and you actually have to like
Oh,
scald the milk. If you don't scald the milk, it won't turn into like a pudding, which
that
is like
sounds so good.
it's so weird and like it's hard to force yourself to do it, but you do it and then it comes out great. But anyway, we just had ice cream because Ollie got into the GATE program at school. I'm just gonna brag. I'm
Ooh.
just gonna brag about it. I can't help it.
Bragging about your kid. Yeah.
I can't help it. I'm so proud. So we got him ice cream, and then of course we got ourselves ice cream because that's what you do. Anyway,
Yeah.
okay. Now that we've discussed how our lives are, let's talk about horrific murder. That's a perfect segue.
Yeah.
I think I did that well. Okay, so again, this is murders that were released only to kill again. It's a pretty fucked up topic, and I am doing one of the worst, in my opinion, on this list. And this case could be like a 4-hour in-depth multi-parter. I've condensed it down as best I can. I hope I don't miss any. I'm trying to do the
Mm.
broad strokes, but anybody that
I just forgot what you were doing, and then I
yeah,
remembered, and I'm like,
yeah,
oh, that's why you said it was so horrible. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
This is a meaty case. Please know that I did a ton of research and then boiled it down. So if I miss something you guys think is important and you know this case, please know that it's just in an effort to not be here for 2 hours. So I'm going to talk today about Arthur Shawcross.
Okay.
So Yeah, this is a case that will keep you guessing because a lot of the information we have about him comes from him, and he is just a straight up motherfucking liar. He is a lying ass bitch.
Hmm.
So it's really hard to know what's what. But I'm going to decipher the best I can and tell you guys about this motherfucker. So he was born in Maine on June 6th, 1945, which does make him a Gemini. I always like to point that out because my kid is a Gemini. For
Hmm.
all his accomplishments, he's a Gemini. So we're still fighting against,
Yeah.
the urge to kill, perhaps. Um, so he was born in Maine. I think he was the oldest of four children. He had one brother and two sisters. His family, when he was very young, moved to Watertown, New York, which is a small upstate town. He would later say that he had a very troubled childhood due in large part to his parents abusing him, and especially
Okay.
his mother abusing him. And his mother's name was Betty, but apparently sometimes she also went by Bessie. And he huh, he said some crazy shit about her, about his aunt, about his sister. His entire family, his siblings included, deny all of his claims, which to me is
Okay.
significant because I feel like if you have three siblings, a mom, a dad, extended family, aunts and uncles, and what you're saying is true, somebody is going to crack eventually and be like, yes, it's
Yeah.
true. Or somebody else in town is going to be like, we know about this family. But his family, like, unequivocally is like, he's full of shit. He just likes to be the
Mm.
center of attention.
So that could be the case for sure.
For sure. And I don't want to be like, I don't believe survivors, but like with this guy, it's really hard to believe him.
Yeah.
Especially as we get more into the case, you'll see why. So,
Okay.
some of the claims made against his mother by Arthur here include that she performed oral sex on him starting when he was very young. He,
Okay.
he also said that he had sex with his younger sister at some point and that other adults had abused him sexually as well, including a random man when he was 14 who he said had oral sex with him. He also said he had oral sex with multiple other people in his young childhood. So the
So there's kind of a
focus,
formula, and it's like his fetish or his thing he's into. Maybe he's just sort of
yes,
applying to this formula. And
yes.
okay.
Yeah, he really likes to talk about oral sex. He really likes to talk about himself engaging in it with both men and women. He really likes to
Hmm.
to talk about how he was a very sexual being from a young age and how so many members of his family and those around him were partaking in this with him. Now,
It also could
again,
be like things he knows about serial killers. He could be just like playing from the handbook of like things that have happened to other killers.
totally, totally, he could. I do think
Yeah.
that he has fixation with oral sex for sure.
Yeah.
He also said that this man, like basically raping him, made it so that he couldn't have sex without pain involved. I think that
Mm.
he was just born wrong personally, but I don't know.
Okay.
It might have been nurture. I don't know. So he had a lot of issues growing up. He was a perpetual runaway starting around age 7. And by age 9, he had made it all the way to the Canadian border running away, which for a 9-year-old is insane. My 8-year-old doesn't even know what running away is. Like, he doesn't even
Yeah.
know that that's like a thing, you
Yeah.
know? So, and a lot of kids are like, I'm running away, and they'll like go down the block with like their, you know,
Right.
stuffed animal in a sleeping bag, and then they come back an hour later because they're hungry or tired or whatever.
Right.
But he actually fucking boned out and would like disappear. So this
Oh
was
my gosh.
pretty gnarly pretty early on. So he did well in school until third grade. His grades started slipping at this time and he became something of a bully to younger kids. This was likely due to him being bullied himself and sort of passing the buck to like younger, smaller students, younger, smaller kids. And also around third grade, he started getting held back and was held back multiple times, in fact, because he was unable to keep up in school. He was also a chronic bedwetter and had an obsession with starting fires. Now
Mm.
we're looking at that MacDonald triad a bit here, which we
Yep.
we know it's not like a direct line between these things and becoming a serial killer, but it's definitely not a good triad to be a part of. Like you're not want like somebody who has the MacDonald triad is probably not going to grow up to be like somebody with like a healthy family life and a good job. It's like not a good thing. I
Yeah.
will briefly just say that he was also mean to animals. We'll leave it there.
Well, thank you.
Yep. I wrote "You're welcome, Diva" in my notes. You're
Yeah,
welcome,
I
Diva.
believe you. We can imagine. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Just a few other notes from his childhood. He suffered multiple head injuries, and these are confirmed, including one around age 5 that left a permanent bump on his head that you can actually see, like when he's an old ass man, it's on there. He had two other head traumas in his youth, and it also was also reported that his IQ was hanging out somewhere in the 80s.
Okay.
And then I made a
So that's
note.
low.
Yes, 100 is like standard normal, 80 and below is where you start being like, well, you might need help.
Hmm.
But in my note, I wrote hanging around in the 80s wearing spandex and listening to New Wave.
Oh, oh, very
But
good.
ching. Yeah, I felt really
Yeah.
funny about that. Okay. I'm a funny gal. So anyway, lots of issues abound for this guy. By ninth grade, he dropped out of school and started a life of crime. And he actually had a really long string of petty charges against him when he finally did what a lot of serial killers end up doing and joined the army. So he was only 20 at this time, and he did a tour in Vietnam and later claimed that during that time he had beheaded mothers of babies, engaged in cannibalism, removed
Ah, yes.
eyeballs,
Yes.
all this crazy shit. Later on, the army was like, dude, he never saw a day of battle. He was behind a desk the whole time. So this also kind of lends, to the idea that he probably made a lot of other things up in his life,
Yeah.
especially ones that were tied to like fantasies.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And also his family said, he always wanted to be the center of attention and he'd make up stories to ensure that he was. He had like middle child syndrome, even though he was the oldest, which is interesting.
Mm,
So anyway, when he came back from the States while still serving in the army, he was arrested for arson. And he actually, I skipped a little bit here. Um, Before he went into the army, he had already married and had a child. And when he was getting in trouble with all of these crimes, his wife finally divorced him, and he never saw his child again. The last time he
oh
saw
my
his
God.
son, he was like 18 months old, and he just fucking bailed.
Wow.
So he remarried around the same time he joined the army. And then when he got back and he was setting these fires, his wife Linda said that he would constantly set fires. Like this was like his thing that he would do. And army psychiatrists would say that he got off on it. So it was like sexually arousing to him, which again, back in the triad. The couple moved back to upstate New York. Linda divorced him pretty much immediately because she was like, yo, this dude's crazy. And this sent him on a crime spree that ended with a 5-year prison sentence, which, as will kind of be, I think, a theme in all of our stories, this 5-year sentence was reduced to a whopping 22 months. This
Mm,
was this
okay.
was for burglary and arson, so not like murder or anything, but still,
Sure.
he got out pretty quick. He was released October 1971, moved back to Watertown, and on April 7th, 1972, so what is that, like 6 or 7 months after being released, he killed his first victim. And trigger warning, this is fucked. The
Okay.
victim was his 10-year-old neighbor, a little boy named Jack Blake. He had taken Jack fishing a few days prior, probably to gain his trust and also to work up his own nerve. And then on the 7th of April, he took Jack to a wooded area where he made him strip naked and run through the woods while
Mm,
Arthur chased him.
no, God.
When Arthur caught him, he raped him and then suffocated him, which was
That's
really fucking horrific. So this little
very
boy,
Albert Fishian.
very much. And it's
Yeah.
funny you say that because it is widely believed. I mean, I couldn't find 100% for sure, but pretty much I feel comfortable saying that he cut off Jack's genitals and also cut out his heart and
Woo.
cannibalized them.
So this is his first murder. He's going from like 0 to 1,000.
Yes, straight up.
Wow. Wow.
A couple of weeks after this horrifying attack, he married his third wife, Penny. Then, so that was April 7th, 1972.
Okay.
September 2nd, 1972, he abducted, raped, and killed 8-year-old Karen Hill, who was visiting Watertown with her mother for the Labor Day weekend. So, pretty fucked up. Her body was found with mud, leaves, and branches stuffed down her throat. And she
Ugh,
had also been strangled to death. Yeah, these are fucked up. Now,
really like serial killery, if that makes sense. Like
yes, it
a
was
lot of
all,
extra flourishes on top of just killing a child. Like,
yes, yes. He had also bit her body around her
Ugh.
genitals, potentially ate part of her as well. And I don't always go into the horrific details of these cases, but I want to go into them here so that we can all understand how fucking insane these murders were. Because as we know, he is going to go to jail and he's gonna get out. So if we just want to marinate on that for a minute, because it's fucking insane.
Yeah.
So anyway, Arthur was seen taking her. He was arrested the next day, or not the next day. He was arrested about a month later. When arrested at first, he played dumb, but he eventually confessed to both killings and even told them or like took them to where he dumped Jack's body. Now Jack had already been found, but his location of his body obviously wasn't released to anybody. So the fact that he took them directly to it was a pretty good sign that he had actually done it. That being said, he was only charged with Karen's murder because that was the only one they had enough evidence to independently prove his guilt. So all he had to do was deny that he had killed Jack, and they knew they didn't have enough evidence to get him for it. So they gave him leniency in return for this information and this plea. And they also took into account that he did have mental issues as recorded by the army. And his
Okay.
two murders were reduced to one count of first degree manslaughter. So
Well, two. Okay, that is a big jump.
a big jump. Two
Quantity and like the caliber.
two children aged 10 and under kidnapped, raped, tortured, and murdered, and he got
Wow.
one manslaughter. He was
Wow.
given, yeah, he was given 25 years. And what's better, he was released in 1989 after serving less than 15.
Oh my God.
Mhm. Now, this was highly controversial, and many people came out against his release. But officials said he was a model inmate and that due to good behavior laws in New York at the time, he would have been released in 1989 anyway. It was also thought that he was given leniency for serving in Vietnam, and I do not doubt that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Which, okay, I won't belabor the point, but like that is not evidence that someone's not a violent serial killer. In fact, a lot of the dudes serving in that war did serial killer shit
Yes,
on the
100%.
reg.
100%.
Yeah.
I know a Vietnam vet who I don't even think did particularly, I mean, it's hard to say a million's a million, but like he didn't go out of his way to do particularly like horrible shit, but he has been like punishing himself for the rest of his life. Like
Mm.
he is like choosing to be homeless, not taking care of himself. The guilt of
Uh,
what war is disgusting, and like the guilt of what
yeah,
happened.
everyone's fucks up
Yeah.
everyone.
Yeah.
So,
So the idea that, but also it's cops and, prison people who are like giving him this leniency for serving. So it makes sense. So he was, in fact, released and had a very hard time finding a place to live because everywhere he went, people knew who he was and did not want him anywhere near their families. And in fact, they were like calling the local police and being like, there will be a mob outside of this motherfucker's door if you don't get him the fuck out of our city. So it was like people were like threatening violence against him. They were calling the police. Uh, yeah. Anyway, not good, but
yeah.
very smart of these families to be like, not in our motherfucking town. So he ends up in a transient hotel in Rochester, New York, after moving around to 4 or 5 different cities. It was his parole officer who placed him in this hotel because they couldn't find any other arrangements for him. And of course, he's got a new girlfriend because ladies love fucked up murderers. And for whatever reason, probably because they were sick of moving him around, his parole officer, quote unquote, forgot to notify local authorities that Arthur Shawcross was in Rochester.
Oh my
So,
God.
yeah. So he was able to slip through the cracks and found a house to rent and settled in. Now, in early 1988, sex workers around the area started to disappear. The first to disappear was 27-year-old Dorothy Blackburn, who was last seen March 18th, 1988, and whose body was found in the Genesee River on the 24th of that same month. Her attack was brutal, with bite marks on her body, again near her genitalia, signs of strangulation, as well as assault, and it was also thought that her genitals were cut.
Ugh.
4 months later, another sex worker disappeared, but police were not sure the cases were connected because the MOs were just slightly different, just enough to throw them off. Another attack didn't happen for an entire year, but then the body count rose very fucking quickly. And not only that, but the MO started to look similar each time. So each woman was horrifically abused, strangled, often horribly mutilated, and dumped in a way that showed the murderer was specifically attempting to conceal the body. So police thought this person either has military experience or a good knowledge of the area, or in this case, both.
Hmm.
So, as is often the case, the public became far more interested in this case, which was dubbed that of the Genesee River Killer, uh, due to so many bodies being found in the river. But the general public became really interested when a non-sex worker was killed. And not only killed, but especially horrifically so. 30-year-old June Stott was found in 1989 with signs of anal mutilation, strangulation. Her labia was gone, just removed, probably
Gone.
eaten,
Oh
and
God.
she had been gutted from her crotch to her throat, as you
Hmm.
would when killing a wild animal. So,
Ew. 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 Ew.
yes.
Ew.
Yes. That being said, even with this horrific murder, the public's interest, police on the case, 7 more women would be murdered by this man before he was caught. And they were all killed in the span of 2 months. He was killing like every week.
Wow. It's like a blitz attack, frenzied
Yes.
spree
Yes.
killer.
So he did 2 in 1988, waited a whole year, and then just took off fucking running. Like, just did not slow down.
Wow.
He killed at least 11 women in addition to the 2 children, but he really ramped up towards the end here. Finally, on January 5th, 1990, police arrested him after finding his most recent victim, another woman named June. They found witnesses who placed him with her just before she disappeared. They also had a description of him given to them by other sex workers who said he went by either Mitch or Mike and was prone to violence. And further, police were searching the area with a helicopter over the river and saw not only the nude body of June Cicero, but also Arthur Shawcross himself not far from her, either urinating or masturbating. And
Ooh.
this was because he had returned to the scene of the crime to look at her
Classic.
body. I also saved this for now because it was just too horrifying to pile on. But police believed that Arthur had returned to the scene of 10-year-old Jack Blake's body and raped him post mortem for at least a
Oh,
couple of weeks because he wasn't found for nearly a month.
oh my
Yes,
God. This is very Bundy. It's very Albert
it's
Fish.
really fucking intense. And
Ugh.
luckily, in this instance, his return to the scene of the crime was how he was finally caught.
Okay.
Once they brought him in, they took his photo and they circulated this to sex workers in the area, all of whom identified him as Mitch. And then bringing this to Arthur Shawcross, he himself admitted to his past record. I'm not sure if he admitted outright to the crimes, at least not at that time. But later he was pretty open about things because, again, he loved being the center of attention. He loved to talk about himself. If you guys want to go on YouTube, there is fucking way too many interviews with this guy. There's way more information about him than you could ever possibly want. And most of he's a very Ed Kemper in that way. Like, this guy is like
Hmm.
a smush together of like all the worst parts of a bunch of serial killers. So he truly
Yeah,
is
but
like
he
the worst.
loves talking. Like he's
He
really getting off on
loves it.
talking about how sick and disturbing his shit is, and like
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
I feel like there's hours and hours of him talking on YouTube.
Hours. You're right. Yes, you're right. There are hours of this
Yeah.
dumb motherfucker. And the weird thing is, like, you cannot tell the difference between when he is telling the truth and when he's lying. Like, he will go on and on
Hmm.
about how he was a sharpshooter in Vietnam and how his like commanding officers like loved him and just thought he was so special. And it's like, dude, you were like a fucking clerk. Like, none of this happened, but it's so real to him that it's indecipherable. Like when he's talking, it's really crazy. So anyway, his defense team tried to say not guilty by reason of insanity, noting his head traumas, purported abuse as a child, and multiple diagnoses by professionals as having multiple personality disorder, which no longer is a thing, as well as a lot of other like
Or
antisocial.
it kind of is. I think it's called disassociative, right?
That's what it is.
It's
Yeah. Mhm. And
we
well, and
changed the
yes,
title.
they changed the title, but they also changed like the description a little bit.
It's
But
not thought of the same way. Yeah.
not exactly. Yeah. But
Yeah.
anyway, all of this did not work. Professional witnesses went toe to toe with each other on this topic, but in the end, his past crimes and general just demeanor kind of did him in. and he was given a 250-year sentence for 10 of the murders. One of his victims was killed in a different county, so she was not tried with the rest. But they just didn't try him for her murder. They just were like, "You did this, and you're in jail for 250 years. We're not gonna push it." He went to prison in, I think, 1990, and he died in prison in 2008, in New York after complaining of a pain in his leg, and then later going into cardiac arrest. And who fucking cares? I'm glad he's
Oh
dead.
my gosh.
Yeah. He did have multiple
Wow.
children, including the one he never saw again. He had at least one daughter and who would bring her granddaughter to prison to visit him. And there's some really fucking twisted photos of them, like in luau garb, like hugging in like prison photos, and it's very fucking strange. But yeah, he is like, I tried to distill that down. This man is a
Wow.
fucking
No, you
evil
captured an
nightmare.
essence, a little sampler platter there of how
Okay.
terrible
I hope
he is.
so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
His
for
murders
sure.
were horrifically violent. It was just really bad. Really bad.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
what a gross piece of trash, trash sack of
Yeah.
a man. Yeah.
Absolute trash sack. So there he is. I'm glad that's now out of my mouth. I'm gonna go rinse my own mouth out with soap because I don't wanna have that.
Oh,
What are
oh, my
you
baby,
doing?
my baby might make a sound. Just FYI, he might make a cameo
Oh,
because he's eating, and I'm looking at him threatening to make sounds. My husband's
there.
doing a good job at keeping him at bay, but
I love that, but
anyway,
also, no problem.
baby
The sound
cameo.
of babies
Okay,
is great. So
it's cute. Just so
good
you know.
job, Sam, but also no problem. All right, here we go.
Um, so this is the another trash sack named Albert Flick.
I'm glad you're doing
Um,
this.
yeah, yeah. It's a very weird story. Um, one of us was going to do it, I think,
Yeah,
for this
everybody
topic, and it
remembers
comes
our
up a lot
conversation. Yeah.
when you Google this topic. It comes up a lot. Yeah. So we're going to start our story in January 1979
Hmm.
when 36-year-old Albert lived in Westbrook, Maine, where I think all this takes place in Maine.
Okay.
Albert was an Army vet, another Vietnam vet here. Cool guys. He worked for 19 years at a donut shop, which
Whoa.
chronologically means he was working at like age 10 or something, or 13 or something, but that's okay. So he was a longtime donut employee.
Love that.
Um,
Probably the
but
best thing about him.
yeah, so I don't know a ton about his early life, but here we're just going to start with our first event here. He
Okay.
was married to a woman named Sandra, who was the same age. She served him with divorce papers. And this guy was an abusive asshole because she actually had to call the police to have him physically removed from the apartment. So that's a
Okay.
red flag.
Yeah,
He didn't just
definitely.
like leave.
Yeah.
And they shared this apartment with her 12-year-old daughter that she had from a previous relationship.
Hmm.
So a few weeks later, she also asked him to come by and get his, shit from the
Hmm.
apartment because they've broken up, getting a divorce. But Albert, being an abusive asshole, is not going to accept this, right?
Right.
Um,
Of course.
when he comes back to the apartment, supposedly to get his stuff, Sandra's daughter, Elsie, cute name,
It is.
would later report that she watched from another room through a crack in the door. She was hiding from him because she was scared.
Oh
That
no.
she would watch as Albert twisted her mom's arm behind her back, pushed her into a chair, used his other hand to kind of cover her mouth, and stabbed her. Um, yeah.
Oh my
He
God.
said, while also saying he didn't want to hurt her and he loved her. And obviously her mother was screaming. Um,
Oh my God.
so I hope you got some therapy, Elsie, because that's rough.
Yeah.
Um,
Did her mom
yeah.
survive?
Nope. So we're talking about, the first
Oh
murder that
fuck.
Albert will commit here. So at some point during this attack on her mother's murder, rather, Elsie manages to escape the apartment and actually runs to a neighbor's apartment and asks them to call the police. And this is like in the middle of the attack. Like this daughter just like
Holy shit.
busts out, like very
Good for
courageously.
her. Yeah.
Yeah. This neighbor actually came out of their apartment just in time to see Albert leaving, covered in blood. which is a good thing to, witness for
Yeah.
evidence.
Yeah.
And the neighbor went into the apartment where Sandra was still barely alive, even though
Oh.
she had been stabbed 14 times to the neck, chest, and through her heart.
Oh my God.
In her last breath, she told this neighbor that it was Albert who attacked her.
Good for her. Good for
Yeah,
her.
but that's fucked up.
No, it's
Um,
horrible, but like
yeah,
here's the thing. If you're able to say that, you're gonna in your last moment have a little comfort knowing that somebody knows.
yeah,
You
no,
know?
for sure.
God damn it
So he's
though.
convicted. If only anything was satisfying about about this
Right.
case.
Right.
Mm. So he's convicted of the murder of his wife Sandra and gets a 30-year prison sentence.
Why? That's insane. 30 years? Like,
hmm
why?
hmm You get longer in this country for robbery, for drugs, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Certainly for robbery.
Yeah.
Um, he gets released 9 years early for good behavior, so it's actually a 21-year sentence.
I
So I
really
believe he.
God
hmm
damn. Okay. Whatever.
hmm
Hmm.
Yeah, no, again, violence against women and partners, it's like fucking who
Yeah.
cares?
Doesn't matter.
But
Yeah.
drugs and robbery are like heavy duty.
Property.
Um, yeah, property.
If only women could be viewed just a little as more slightly more valuable property, maybe we could get some like better sentencing. Sorry, that's
Um,
really dark.
oh my gosh. Okay. So boop boop. So I guess he would have gotten out around 2000. I don't have the exact date.
Huh.
And he begins after his release, promptly physically assaulting all the women he dates. He just
Nice. Yeah, sounds
cannot
right.
stop, won't stop.
Yep.
In 2007, he's arrested after he attacks a woman that he had been dating by punching her and stabbing her with a fork.
Whoa, so this is kind of like his thing, huh? He
Mm-hmm.
likes to stab.
Stabbing, yeah.
Very
In
personal
20
attack.
in 2010, a woman reported that during an argument, he put her in a headlock and hit her with the butt of a knife and then chased her around with a screwdriver.
That's interesting. He wasn't quite
Yeah,
ready to take it there if he was hitting her with the butt of the knife, but then to switch to a
right.
screwdriver and chase her is an interesting choice.
Yeah, yeah. He's experimenting in his stab equipment, I
I
guess.
guess so.
Stab
Ugh.
method. When police caught up with him, he was actually in the middle of attempting to commit suicide by hanging in the fire escape of the building, but he did not.
Okay. Performative? Do
Um,
you think that was performative?
yeah, it could be. Yeah.
Okay.
Like, look, I feel bad, right?
Right, 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 right.
Um,
I'm about to
in
be
20,
caught. I'm gonna
yeah.
try to distract, yeah.
In this sentencing for this case, because obviously this lady presses charges,
Hmm.
the prosecutor said that even though Albert was in his this is a prosecutor. Yeah. She says that even though Albert was in his late 60s, he would still pose a risk to women if let out. So he should get
Hmm.
a harsh sentence. Like he's obviously going to do this again. He's already a repeat offender,
Right.
technically, right?
Hmm.
Um, and famously, the thing that's quoted most often in this case, and every headline of every story about it, is the judge in this 2010 case recommended cutting his sentence for this by half to give him just under 4 years rather than 8.
Hmm.
In the statement, this judge said that he was too old to offend again. And here's the quote. He says, quote, "At some point, Mr. Flick is going to age out of his capacity to engage in this conduct."
Why is
Yeah,
that like
my husband just chortled at that. Yeah.
I
And
heard that,
he's only in his late 60s, so he's not even that old. Like
but
I could
here's
see
the
if he was in
thing.
his 90s, but even then,
It's
no.
also like they didn't let like one of the Manson killers out when she was literally
Yes.
incapacitated with
Yes.
brain cancer. So it's like, why
Yes.
is this
Thank
an
you.
argument? Like, what
Thank
the
you. I
fuck?
was going to cite that actually. Thank you,
Oh,
because
nice.
that that actually pissed me off too. Because like not to advocate for the Manson girls, but like there were a few like what's her face Susan Atkins had brain cancer, and
Yeah.
like it was rude not to grant her like merciful release for like just so she could die free. Like it was rude.
I have mixed and ultimately unpopular opinions on the Manson girls. I think they should have all been
Yeah.
released because
Yes. Me too.
for so many reasons, and we can get into it if people
Yes.
want to leave us 1-star reviews about it. Like we can talk about it, but
I'm sorry.
like
I do not think they would be reoffenders.
no,
None of them would be
never.
because all of them like came around within a few years after like the haze of like brainwashing and drugs like wore off, and they were like, "Oh
100%.
shit, I feel really bad." Like
Yeah.
all of a sudden they became normal people really quickly.
Yeah. Everybody
And
read the book
oh my gosh,
The
yeah.
Girls. Have you read that? It's a
Mm,
retelling of it's a
mm-mm.
fictionalized retelling of the Manson crimes through like a feminine lens, like or a feminist
Nice.
lens, I mean. Like looking at it from a viewpoint of like young vulnerable girls being taken advantage of, which is exactly what the fuck happened. But anyway, I just want to point that out because this rationale is why I wanted to pick this case and why I'm really glad you
I
did.
mean,
Because
the
what the actual
only
fuck.
reason that they were not released is because of the high profile nature of that case.
100%. I was going to say that too.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
But like
Yeah.
if someone's old and especially if they're ill, like in the case of those women, like come on. Like I generally agree, but in this case, this guy's already demonstrated that he'll repeat offend and he was old when he did the
Right.
second offense. So
Right.
it's like he's already demonstrated that his age is not a factor. He's
Right.
going to continue to abuse women.
And they
Anyway,
still
so
let him out. Insane.
yes. So that's what the judge says. By the way, that judge like quickly became like not a judge. I forget. I didn't know what else he does now, but he
Yeah.
like left the field.
Yeah. Smart.
So he's out of prison pretty early. I think 2014
Mm-hmm.
thereabouts because 4-year sentence. Yeah, so that makes sense.
Okay.
Um,
That's insane.
2014. Yeah. He runs in, by the way, right away. His first order of business is he runs into the same woman he attacked in 2010 and threatens her. He says, "You'll get yours." You know, I'm imagining. Yeah. So he's threatening his victim
Jesus.
right away. This guy cannot stop. Even though he's given all these favors and handouts of like generosity, he's like, nope, nope, nope. Um,
That's
for
fucking
this,
that's like it's just like I'm sorry. It just blows my mind that like immediately after he's like right back to it. And it's like nobody
yeah,
wants to follow up on
yeah.
this or notice this. Like,
Well, she reported that actually, so he got a parole violation, and he actually got 2 more years in prison, but he was
oh,
out by 2016.
oh God. Okay.
Yeah, I kind of feel like there should be like we have the three strikes bullshit in general. I
Yeah.
feel like there should be three strikes specifically if you're abusive to women and violent to women and
Yeah.
children. I feel like there should be three strikes there.
That's what it should really be.
Where you have a third strike on like violence towards women and children, then you are in prison forever. Like
Yeah, not if you stole
if
your third car. Like, get the fuck
no,
out of here. Yeah.
no, yeah. So when he gets out in 2016, he met 48-year-old Kimberly Dobby. She was a woman who was experiencing homelessness with her two sons, and three of
Mm,
them lived at a shelter. So he definitely preys on her because of the vulnerable position she's in her life. He swoops in and offers to buy her sons like food, which fair enough. She's like, okay at first, right?
yeah. Yeah.
And who could refuse that when she's like got no money?
Right.
And I'm sure the homeless shelter's got like shit for food. No
Yeah.
offense.
Oh yeah.
Um, but soon, even despite this charity, Kim has like had it with him.
Mm-hmm.
Because according to Kim's friends, he followed her absolutely everywhere she went. She asked him to leave her be and go away, and he wouldn't. So he's like straight up stalking her.
Mm-hmm.
And he tried to like make a move on her romantically, and she's like, "No, please
Mm-mm.
no."
Not into it.
And
Yeah.
he's really upset by that.
Of course. Makes sense.
So July 13th, 2018, Albert went to the local Walmart where he bought $2 pink paring knives, which by the price point and the color, they're also like dull and shitty.
Dull as fuck. He might as well have bought a
Mm-hmm.
couple of spoons.
Butter knives, yeah,
Oh
practically.
God.
2 days later, as he's stalking Kimberly, which seems to be what he was doing at the time,
Yeah.
he comes upon them as she and her kids are doing errands. They went to Dunkin' Donuts and they went to the laundromat.
Okay.
And heartbreakingly, by the way, well, I'll tell you what's heartbreaking in a second. I'll bury the lead.
Okay.
So as she's put her laundry in, Kim steps outside, and I believe her kids are outside also.
Mm-hmm.
She's making a phone call. And that's when Albert fucking attacks her. He stabs her
No.
11 times as her two sons literally watch.
That's
Yeah.
insane. That's so
Yeah.
fucked.
They were playing on the sidewalk, and so both murders he committed involve women
Were
being stabbed in front of their fucking
of
children.
their own children. That's so
Yeah,
fucked. This
yeah,
guy's a
so fucked.
monster.
Monster. Absolutely. Surveillance cameras show Kim leaving, talking on the phone. They show Albert pacing back and forth. They show the two boys rushing to their mom's side. It's just heartbreaking.
Yeah, that's horrible.
Yeah. And what's really horrific to me, heartbreaking, is that this Kim Dobby was literally the next day after this was set up with her own apartment. Like,
Oh
she had the keys,
God.
she was preparing to move in, she had turned a new corner in her life. They were probably so excited, right? They
Yeah,
had their fucking own place for once,
right.
and she was about to move in, and this is, yeah, it's just insanely disgusting.
Yeah. To
So
have that
as he's
ripped
being
away.
attacked,
Ugh.
yeah, so close.
Yeah.
At the laundromat, as she's being attacked, an onlooker in, because this is like broad daylight,
Right, yeah.
an onlooker inside the laundromat named Dennis Fisher busted out of there and quote unquote drop kicked Albert, which I love that description.
Good. Good for him.
um, he held him down until the police could get there, and other witnesses also came out and like made sure, like, okay, you got this fucking guy, fuck him, you know.
Mhm.
Which I love that happened. There's like this power of witnesses being like, no, 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 fuck you,
It's like a
you know.
Richard Ramirez moment,
Yes.
you know?
No, that's what anyone would do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just the other day, my husband actually saw a woman getting yelled at down the street, like in an abusive way by a dude. And
Hmm.
he and like another dude like rushed across the street to be like, hey, 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 you know,
Like,
what's up?
absolutely not.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Good.
I think that's, it's a good reassuring thing, at least.
Yeah.
Um, so da, 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 he and the other witnesses so totally saw the attack. They saw her bleeding. They saw him running away. So this is like no
Hmm.
secret who did this. There's no mystery. Uh, he's arrested right away.
Hmm.
When this case hits the press, people are outraged that Albert Flick was out at all, obviously, after
Yeah.
his murder of his wife and his other violent assaults on various women.
Yeah.
His The daughter of Sandra Flick, Elsie, said this could have been prevented. Yeah.
Hmm.
There was no reason this man should have been on the streets.
Yeah.
Another friend of Kim said this was very preventable. So yeah, similar theme there.
Yeah. Fuck.
Yeah. At his trial in 2019, an assistant attorney general presented the case. Basically, it's shocking he even like doesn't plead out. It's like he even puts it to trial. It's like,
Right.
uh,
Right.
but he presents Flick's motive as, you know, exactly what you think it is. He's angered that she rejected his advances, and
Hmm.
angry and upset that she was moving away, getting her own new apartment, kind of, you know, starting a new life without him involved at all.
Right.
And so he, yeah, just did what abusive dudes do who can't have the woman that they're obsessed with, and he attacked her.
Yeah. And killed her.
Um,
Just so fucked.
yeah. So the jury
Jesus.
took only 40 minutes to find Flick, who was then 77,
God
guilty of
damn.
Kim Dobby's murder. Yeah, it just goes to show you. I mean, I've covered many other cases on the podcast of dudes that age who killed. It's not fucking impossible.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
They can be quite physically capable.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
God
I
damn.
couldn't find any actually updates on his sentencing. It was supposed to take place in August, but he faced 25 years to life. Maine
Hmm.
does not have the death penalty. But I would fucking imagine, I would hope this guy is never getting out after like the 12 fuck ups, that
Yeah.
happened, and how old he is. So,
Yeah, for real. Jesus Christ. I mean, he doesn't have that long left, probably.
right.
Hopefully.
No,
I mean, maybe
no.
he's a very healthy individual, but he's in prison, so it's probably not going
You
great.
know, people only live so long. Even 25 years would be sufficient.
Yeah.
So,
God
yeah.
damn, dude. It's
Yeah.
these cases are insane to me. Like every single one of these, the murders are brutal enough that you're like, how the fuck did they get released to do this again? Like when you consider the people who get life sentences and then
Hmm.
you think about these people and you're like, we're in opposite land. Like we're in opposite land.
Yeah.
Like that's
I've
where we
been
are.
so It's so angering too to think of all the people who get life sentences for like armed robbery, which, like, yeah, I
Yes.
guess that's bad to do, I guess, but like I don't think it warrants a life sentence.
No, no, it is very bad, and you definitely shouldn't do that. But like you've talked about how people in the getaway car get a life sentence and never get out.
Yes. Yes.
Yet,
No, just in the fucking car outside while someone else is doing the armed robbery, get life sentences
yeah,
in this country. Yeah.
yeah, but then you have a guy
It's insane.
in my case that killed both of my guys killed children and were
Mhm.
released. It's
Yeah.
insane. Like, I can't.
No.
I can't. Okay, what are we doing next week, by the way?
Oh, I'm staring at my cat, by the way, in the baby's downstairs bassinet. She's looking at me smugly, like, hell yeah.
Aww.
I'm the baby. I'm the baby. It's making me laugh. Okay. So I just was browsing our list of lists and I had an idea because I've wanted to do this quite often. I don't think we have, correct me if I'm wrong. I love international travel. I love facts
Mhm.
about the world, other countries. I love that kind of thing. So I wanted to do serial killers of the world. So all
Oh.
non-American serial killers of like different places, unexpected places, and just kind of be
America takes the
global.
seat on this one.
Yeah, just be
I like
global
that.
about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Please don't do like the 300 children murder. I think you already did. So you can't do them again.
No, I
Thank
think
God.
I did. I think I did. Although I
Monster of
kind
the
of wanted to
Andes.
do like, I did that. I did that. But I
You
wanted to
did.
do like a separate list for serial killers of Central and South America because they have insane laws there where no matter how many people you kill, you can only get a certain amount of time in
Yeah,
prison.
it's really fucking crazy.
Yeah, it's a great place to be a serial killer, actually. Like you're guaranteed to be out in like 12 years or something.
I mean, seriously,
So,
apparently America is as well. I'm pretty sure all the people that we covered this time were white dudes too, right?
yeah.
Yeah, so takes depends on who you are, I guess, or where you live. But in any case, okay, let's do it. That sounds great. I'm already like, I wonder if there's any Irish. I want to do an Irish one.
Yeah, well, we did Murders of Ireland for St. Patrick's Day one year, so
We
I'm sure there's some
did.
leftovers
I
there.
don't think any of them were serial killers, though. I'm wondering if that's like much of
No.
a thing out there.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm gonna throw in a British one for fun, but like I
Yeah.
want to do like weird, like not. I don't mean to. I'll call countries weird, but like countries we haven't covered before in other capacities.
Yeah, like
It could be fun.
ones that Western podcasts tend to not cover, which is our bad, and we should do more often. So
Oh yeah, and also all of Asia has wild ass serial killers. I've done a
we
few
do.
Japanese ones on the podcast
Mhm.
before.
Yep, same.
Um, yeah, but there's some wild shit out
Yeah.
there.
Okay, awesome. We'll do it. I'm excited. All right, guys, thanks for
Great.
listening. Please like, rate, review. I don't know, all that stuff. Instagram, Patreon, yada yada. Follow us. I don't know, I'm tired. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. Perfect.
Perfect. Okay. Well, thanks everybody once again. Diva, I'm so glad you're back. And
Woo.
until next week,
Stay.
off our
Liz.
list. Bye.
Stay